everyone. We are delighted to welcome the host of PBS's Stargazers, James Albury, to Starry Night 2017. So if you didn't already know, Stargazers is an iconic backyard astronomy program made famous by Jack Horkheimer, which airs on over 100 PBS stations around the world. James Albury spends a lot of time in the dark. Leaning back and surrounded by stars, he juggles whether to fly to Neptune or Saturn. This is the life of a planetarium director, and Albury is the man in charge at Santa Fe's Kika Silva Pla Planetarium since October 2009. And with that said, James Albury.
Thank you. So, welcome to Starry Night 2017. And the title of my talk tonight is Life as a Stargazer and How I Recovered from the Trauma of the 2017 Total Solar Eclipse. So I was quite surprised at how popular the planetarium and I guess how in demand eclipse glasses became as we were getting close to the eclipse. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we do the show Stargazers, and I'll talk to you a little bit about my experience with the total solar eclipse. Yay, it worked. Okay, so as Chelsea mentioned, Stargazers is the only nationally syndicated television series on naked eye astronomy that's designed for the average person. So you don't have to have a lot of degrees in astronomy or science in order to watch the show. We primarily focus on things that you can see from a city, and usually things between the mid-latitudes. We don't do things that are only seen at the extreme northern latitudes or extreme southern latitudes. That way it covers the broad part of North America and Canada and Europe and so on. Although we do focus more on the eastern time zone because, well, that's where we live. But we do take into account the western time zone as well. And the show, oh, by the way, there's a quiz at the end. So, okay. Sure. Not a big quiz, but I have some goodies to give away. One of them, I have two of these. It is a copy of the book that Jack Horkheimer made called Stargazing with Jack Horkheimer. And it's the episodes of the original Stargazers with Jack Horkheimer as the guy, as the comic person. And then I have a commemorative keep looking up pin. Jack produced thousands of them. So I have a couple here that I will be able to give out. So anyway, getting back to that. So Jack started the show in November of 1976 when I was about 9 years old, almost 10. And I remember watching him on TV because he was the director of our planetarium. So every once in a while we'd see him on TV talking about what was going on. And the first time I saw Jack on television, my dad and I were watching him talk about the total lunar eclipse in 1975. I was about 8. So we would go outside, watch the eclipse, and then come back inside and listen to him talk more about eclipses and so forth. So he did a lot for popularizing astronomy around the world, and he was a mentor of mine. So Dean and I began as co-hosts of Stargazers in October of 2011, because Jack sadly passed away in August of 2010, and I dedicated the show that we had, Eclipse, to Jack Horkheimer. How many of you have visited the planetarium at Santa Fe College? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you saw the Eclipse presentation that we did? Okay. Okay. In the last days leading up to the eclipse, we sold out all 7 shows in those 3 days, and 420 people came to the planetarium. We only have 60 seats, so yeah. It's quite a busy time, but I'll talk more about that. So, Dean and I have collectively recorded, let's see, over 600 episodes if you count the 5-minute plus the 1-minute episodes. And it's a lot of fun. We just came back from recording the episodes for December and January. So we recorded the episodes 2 months in advance, because the good thing about astronomy is most of it is predictable. And you can't predict the weather, but you can pretty much predict astronomy. The only thing that we have trouble with are comets, because once we know a comet is coming, it's really tough to tell how bright it's going to be. So it's that adds a little bit to the surprise of it. Same with lunar eclipses. We know the lunar eclipse is going to happen. We don't know how dark it's going to be because that is affected by the atmosphere and how much cloud cover there is on the Earth's terminator, and that's the area where day and night transitions. So if all the places around the world are cloudy or there's a lot of pollution in the atmosphere at sunset or sunrise in those locations, the total lunar eclipse will be darker. So that adds a little more variety and spontaneity to the whole thing. So Dean flies in from Ohio, and I drive down from Gainesville. And a lot of people ask us, well, do you record them separately? But no, it's a lot easier for us to both be in the same place. And when Jack originally did the show, he had practical sets, like they actually had a physical set built. But in the mid-1980s, late 1980s, they decided to use the green screen technology. And one of the producers told me a funny story about that, is that the green screen technology was not is not as sophisticated as they have today. And they noticed that because the chroma key wasn't as sensitive, the top of Jack's head started to disappear because he's bald. So all of a sudden he started wearing toupees on the show, and we didn't know why he was doing that. We thought, oh, now that the show is national, he's vain. At work, he was always, Jack with bald head, and it's like comb over. But they told me later on that the reason he wore the toupee was to keep his head from disappearing. So when I told my dad that story, and he said, well, I have one of your mom's wigs, you could wear that on the show. No. But it's funny though, because they put makeup on me, I have to put makeup on the top of my head to keep it from shining. And it looks a lot like Martian dust. So I said, we should get a face painter to paint Mariner Valley on the back of my head. So the way that Dean and I split the episodes, because we're co-writers of the show. So I usually write the odd numbered weeks, and Dean writes the even numbered weeks. So that might be a question I might ask later. Do I write the odd ones? Think odd. So, yeah. So remember that. All right. So here is this week's episode of Stargazers, if you haven't seen it. And I'll keep my fingers crossed as they play. It works. This is fine.
Legends in the Sky.
Hey there, Stargazers. I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Flaw Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida.
And I'm Dean Regas, astronomer for the Cincinnati Observatory. We're here to help you find your way around the sky tonight. The ancient stargazers had a lot of imagination.
When they looked at the stars, they connected the dots and pictured people, animals, rivers, and even entire scenes.
And in the fall evening sky, if you have an ancient imagination, you can see a king and a queen,
A prince and princess,
two monsters, and
a flying horse.
it's going to get crowded up there, but we can walk you through it.
Okay, we have our sky set up for 9 p.m. facing northeast. About halfway up in the sky, you'll find the 5 familiar stars that look like a letter W.
This is the beautiful Queen Cassiopeia. Now, stretch your imaginations a little and see if you can make out a queen of Ethiopia sitting on her throne.
Sorry, I guess I don't have that much imagination. But once you find her, she is the central character of our story.
Legend has it that Cassiopeia bragged about her beauty way too much. In fact, one day she said, now get this, she said, "I'm more beautiful than all the mermaids in the ocean."
Yikes. That got Poseidon, the god of the sea, super mad. He confronted Cassiopeia's husband, King Cepheus, whose 5 fainter stars are up and to the left of his wife. The stars look like an upside-down house.
For insulting the gods, Cassiopeia had to give up her one and only daughter, the Princess Andromeda, as a sacrifice. Basically, they had to chain Andromeda to a big rock in the ocean and let Poseidon's pet sea monster eat her.
You can find Andromeda to the right of Cassiopeia. Her stars look more like a skinny letter A.
A for Andromeda.
Exactly. Andromeda also houses the closest galaxy to our Milky Way. It's called the Andromeda Galaxy because you can find it near her right hip star. Of course, if you lived in a light-polluted area, you won't be able to see this galaxy. However, if you're out in the country, you might see it looking like a little cloud barely visible to the naked eye.
With binoculars, you can resolve a lot more of its cloudy nature. And with a telescope, you can see it as a long, fuzzy blur. This is a galaxy with 1 trillion stars that you can't see with the naked eye. Space is scary big.
Now, before the sea monster makes his appearance, we must introduce our hero, Perseus. As the story goes, Perseus that very morning slew the wicked Gorgon Medusa.
She's the one with snakes for hair and turns you to stone with just one look.
Looking at her reflection in his shield, Perseus chopped off her head, then put her head in a bag for safekeeping.
Later that afternoon, as he was flying through the air on his winged sandals, with the infamous bag at his side, Perseus happened to spy a young maiden in distress.
Our Princess Andromeda. Now, we're facing east at 10 p.m. and Perseus appears on the scene. You can find him as a squiggle of stars below Andromeda's feet.
The sea monster, a constellation named Cetus, is just rising in the east-southeast. I think its stars look like a recliner chair.
That doesn't seem so scary.
Anyway, Perseus yells to Andromeda, "Close your eyes!" Then he closes his eyes, reaches into the bag, and pulls out Medusa's severed head. Shows it to the sea monster, who takes one look at it and, poof, turns to stone.
Perseus saves the day. Wow, what a starry story. A king, a queen, a prince, and princess, 2 monsters, and oops, we forgot the flying horse.
Oh yeah, Pegasus was supposedly born from this epic battle, as Perseus held out Medusa's head. Now, this is gross. Some of her blood fell into the water and turned magically into Pegasus the flying horse.
Oh, come on, that's too weird.
Agreed, but that's the kind of imagination we're dealing with when we learn about the constellations, and when you keep looking up.
Okay, what your question was,
What's the second piece?
the second beast was that
Pegasus?
Pegasus. Oh yeah, Pegasus is a flying horse. He's not too much of a beast. He's just, well, a horse. But he's got wings and he's really pretty. If you see the movie Clash of the Titans, well, it's not really a movie for little kids, but yeah, it's kind of a scary movie. But because the Kraken was really scary. But when you get older, look for the movie that came out probably about 6-7 years ago called Clash of the Titans, and it has that story. So, let's see. Oh yeah, and I work in a planetarium. So, this is one of the reasons why I'm also on Stargaze, because I used to work at the planetarium in Miami, and then,
Which is the Kika Silverclaw.
yeah, the Kika Silverclaw Planetarium, yes. So, I'm the coordinator of the planetarium. I've been there since October of 2009, so I just celebrated my 8th anniversary there. And it was dedicated on September 8th of 2006, and our mission is to enrich the learning experience and environment for San Diego College students and the community. And we see probably about 6,000 to 7,000 school children a year, and we also see close to 2,000 of the general public. So we see over 8,000 visitors annually, and we only have 60 seats. But you'll notice behind me, we have the Chronos optical mechanical projector. It projects 8,000 stars on the ceiling. And the one just in front of it, I nickname it Gort because it has a little eyelid on it. If you ever see the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still, it looks like his helmet. That's a protective cover to protect the fisheye lens from younger people, well, older people, anyone touching it. Because if you've ever been in our planetarium, our dome is the largest dome they can put in that building, and it's lower because it can't be any higher. So the spring line, as we call it, is about 6 feet. So anyone over 6 foot tall would have to duck. So you notice behind me over on the left, that little piece that's missing? When we close the door, that piece closes up. So, but because it's so low, the projector has to be lower. And then the fisheye lens, which costs $15,000 and is custom ground for our planetarium, it's within touching and maneuvering distance of everybody, particularly little ones. So when they installed it, I said, do you guys have any cover that I can put over that? And they said, well, we can give you an electronic one that you can program to close at the end of the show and open at the beginning of the show. And it's like, yay, that works. It costs $2,000. It's like, is there anything in the planetarium industry that's cheap? All right, so, and one thing I noticed about working at the planetarium is I get to be the Jack Horkheimer of Gainesville. Because I noticed when I first started working at the planetarium, a month later, I got a call from TV20 saying, hey, we heard there's a meteor shower coming up and we wanted to do an interview for the news. And I went, oh wow, now, yeah, I guess they're going to call me whenever anything happens in the sky. So after I did my interview, I called Jack on the phone, because Jack was still alive at this point. It was one of the last times I had an opportunity to talk to him. And I said, Jack, I just had a Horkheimer moment. And he said, that didn't involve gastrointestinal distress, did it? I said, no. He said, well, enjoy it. Every once in a while you'll get like 15 minutes of fame, so just make sure you're up to date on everything that happens in the sky. Because every once in a while people ask me questions about like two neutron stars that collide or something else that happens, so I have to keep doing research periodically. But with that said, there was a total solar eclipse this year. And in the International Planetarium Society, there are over 2,000 planetariums around the world. And a lot of us in the United States, I just came back from the Pleiades conference. We had our first national planetarium conference, so all 7 regions, and I'm the president-elect for the Southeastern region, so technically I'm vice president for 2 years and then president for 2 years. But anyway, we had over 400 delegates in St. Louis, Missouri for our conference. And we decided to have the conference in October instead of how we usually do it during the summer, because all of us were preparing for this. Because we knew that we would be very busy during those last 2 weeks of August. The picture of the billboard there, I took that picture when I was driving through Kansas on my way to Denver, Colorado for my birthday, which I'll talk about later. But this flyer here was produced by our staff over at Santa Fe College, because that's how much of the sun would be showing from Gainesville. Because here in Gainesville, we got 90% coverage. I've never seen a partial eclipse that deep before. How many of you were here in Gainesville on that day? Okay, did you get to go outside and look at the sunlight under the trees? Yeah. You can also use a colander, I found out. If you have a colander or do your fingers like that, you'll see little crescent shapes. It's really cool. So, anyway, that eclipse is the most well-documented eclipse in human history because it went over so many popular areas. It passed over 14 states, so over millions and millions of people had the opportunity to experience this eclipse, mostly in partial stages, but a lot of us decided to hit the road and go to totality, because I've been an astronomer for a long time, since I was, a professional astronomer for only like 12 to 15 years, but I was a fan of astronomy since I was little, and I graduated from the University of Florida with my degree in astronomy because I wanted to direct a planetarium one day. But I've never seen a total solar eclipse. I've seen partials, I've seen total lunars, I've seen occultations, I've seen meteor showers, comets. I even saw Halley's Comet when I was 18, and I'm hopefully going to see it when I'm 91, when it comes back. But it wasn't that great. Comet Hale-Bopp was much better. But anyway, so we were in preparation for it. So we got lots of media attention, and I had the opportunity of being a part of Ask a Scientist here at the Florida Museum of Natural History a few days before the eclipse. And we dedicated 3 episodes of Stargazers just to the eclipse. And I had the opportunity to do interviews with UFT and TV20, and my son is in 1st grade at Irby Elementary, so I was his show and tell one day. And you'll see Bryce out there. I hope he's still out there. He said he was going to be with my colleagues over there. So if you see a little person who looks like me wearing a gray cap and red sweater vest, that's Bryce. Anyway, so I went to speak to his 1st grade class about eclipses and about the moon and why all of this is happening. And we thought we were prepared, because at our planetarium conferences for years, we knew this eclipse was coming, we knew it was going to hit, but only a few places were in totality, so like the Sudekum Planetarium in Nashville, we knew, yeah, you guys are going to get slammed. I'm in Gainesville. I can stay home that day. Not. It also happened to be the first day of school at UF and Santa Fe College. See, I'm thinking, well, why didn't, Dr. Fox and Dr. Sasser could have said, oh, let's just start school the next day. But no one did. Okay, so anyway, the bane of my existence. I got so many phone calls. I never realized that I would be this popular, because during one of my interviews, I made the mistake of saying, oh yeah, everyone who attends our eclipse presentation will get a complimentary pair of eclipse glasses for every person who attends. Then I noticed we do our online ticket sales through Vendini, and I looked and all the shows for the upcoming weekend, it sold out. It's like, wow. So I added another show, and within a day, they all sold out. It's like, So the week before the eclipse, I added 3 shows on Yeah, 3 shows on Friday, 3 shows on Saturday, and 2 on Monday. And all of them sold out before we even got to that part of the week. And everyone in town, the museum here, they ran out of eclipse glasses. All the stores that sold eclipse glasses, they all ran out. And I'm a board member for the Asterian Foundation, which is an educational foundation that helps to encourage STEM and particularly astronomy projects for little kids and educational institutions. We purchased 3,000 eclipse viewers and we distributed them to all the libraries in the Alachua County District. So each one got 300 shades and they ended up running out. So, yeah, so I'm like, and Santa Fe College, not only did SEPA, the Southeastern Planetarium Association, we are 10,000 and distributed among our planetariums. I got 300, and I got 300 from Asterian. And then Santa Fe College, we bought 2,000, and we distributed them among our centers, and we had some set aside for the first day of school. But I had the majority of them, and I was handing them out to everyone, and well, I kept getting phone calls once, say, hi, do you have any eclipse classes? And I would have people actually ambushing me when I would leave my office. People would stand in front of the planetarium waiting for me. So, yeah, I had to put a sign on the door, and that box of envelopes, what I had to do was, for those last shows, I had to ration them out. So since everyone bought their tickets in advance, I looked at the patron manifest and I said, okay, you have a family of 9, I'll give you guys 5. You have a family of 2, I'll give you 2. If you have a family of 3, I'll give you 3. And it was a little more orderly. So I learned about supply and demand. So yeah, you can learn about economy and stuff like that. I used to work in sales very briefly when I worked for a health club, and one of the things they taught us was an acronym called SUV, scarcity, urgency, and value. So this was an example of that. Scarcity, we don't have any more eclipse glasses that aren't fake. Urgency, the eclipse is on Monday, and value, if you don't use them, you'll go blind. So, all right, so I like meats. So this is SpongeBob, meat since I can't find eclipse, and then Elmo, me looking at the eclipse so I could follow this ability on my head. So, all right, so I skipped town. Well, actually, I told my coworker Dina, who you'll meet at our table, she said she'd stay in town because when I was younger, I looked up all the total solar eclipse dates in my lifetime, and I remembered that there was one that was 4 days before my 50th birthday. So I told Kendra I want to celebrate my birthday in a special way, so I want to go see totality. So I talked to Dr. Sasser, he said, yeah, you can go. And you know, we were expecting a big crowd, but yeah, so I had my eclipse shades. I set them aside early, and then that was a truck that we saw on the way. They were also going to the eclipse, and I stopped off in Lake Butler Middle School to pose in front of their sign about the eclipse, and I took my sacrificial goat, Sammy. I'm kidding about that. I often would say that when total solar eclipses happen, if you're in the area, you actually feel the temperature drop, and you can hear birds and all sorts of animals chirping and freaking out, and people will go to Walmart and sacrifice goats in the parking lot. So I had to put a picture of Sam in the sacrificial goat. So I made sure I stayed in a nice hotel, because I didn't book my hotel room until probably 2 or 3 weeks before the eclipse, and all the good hotels near Columbia, South Carolina were all gone. So I found a hotel in Aiken, South Carolina, which is right on the edge of Moon Shadow. So that way I could drive up there and not be in bumper traffic. And surprisingly, the traffic wasn't bad going into totality. But once the eclipse was over, everyone and their brother got on the road and tried to head out. And it was like, zombie apocalypse. So it took, I want to say 8 hours to get home. It was. And if any of you saw what Hurricane Irma, I'm glad Hurricane Irma didn't come by during this. That would have been horrible. So, anyway, I wanted to experience totality as much as I could. So I looked at the map, and I found that the center line didn't go exactly through Columbia, South Carolina. It went slightly south, and it went right through a town called Lexington, South Carolina. And I had a friend who I used to work out with. He and his family moved to Lexington, so I sent him eclipse shades like months ahead. But I said, we're going to go to a Burger King off exit 51, area 51, exit 51. Isn't that cool? Anyway, and it was on Interstate 20. And there were a couple other options. There was a Dollar General, and there was a Mobil gas station, one of those big Love's truck stops. But the Burger King was kind of cool because it's right there, and if I get hungry, I can go over to Burger King and get a burger or something. And I set up my tent, and that's Bryce sitting there relaxing on his tablet. Because we got there at 11 o'clock, and nothing exciting happened until like 1 or so. So, let's see. Now, of course, back in Gainesville, I'll turn the light off so you can see. Dina and James, who's the other professor who's there, that's James and that's George. He's projecting the eclipse on the sheet there through one of our telescopes. That's the courtyard between the planetarium and Building G. They said during the day we had close to about 2,000 people off and on throughout the day during the eclipse, and it was quite an event. I kind of wish I was here to experience it, so I'll have to clone myself so that I can be in 2 places at one time. All right, so there was a lot of media day coverage, and I took pictures of the TV set at the hotel. I noticed one thing though. They misspelled safety, because they were probably having typo things. And then Bailey's beads is missing an E. But I don't mean it. I try not to be nitpicky like Dr. Tyson. Dr. Tyson's cool. I like him. I had a chance to meet Neil deGrasse Tyson one day. I'll tell you that story later. So, anyway. So, I did a live video stream, and I'm not going to show it here just because of the time constraints. But if you're on Facebook, I archived it on the Planetarium's Facebook page and my Stargazers fan page, and it's also archived on the Stargazer Facebook page itself. And my reaction to the eclipse, I completely didn't expect it to be as beautiful as it was. I mean, I wish I could play the video, but I think the video that I recorded it's an MOV and it doesn't want to play properly. But if you go to our Facebook page, you'll see the video. Okay, and that's my wife there. She had one of the little visor things over her eyes and waving at the camera. So I wanted to give her a shout out. Yay. She's in Tampa right now. She's on her way. She's doing her busy stuff. So anyway, and I didn't really want to have to do anything Stargazer related. I just wanted to enjoy the eclipse, but it's my job, so. And totality was awesome. I'm going to turn off the light. This is a friend of mine who watched the eclipse from a couple miles away. He took a picture of it, and pictures don't do totality justice. How many of you got a chance to experience totality? Yeah. The corona is really, really, it's a pure white. I've never seen anything that bright. And it gets dark very, very quickly. What I may do is, during our question and answer time, I may play the video and y'all can, well, it's not really exciting. I mean, you'll have sound, and I might turn the podium around so you can kind of see it, but yeah. But it's about as bright as the full moon, but the darkness is about as dark as it is about 30 minutes before sunrise. And it's, I definitely want to see all the other eclipses I can in my lifetime. I told Kendra that there's actually a total solar eclipse on our wedding anniversary in 2021. And she said, oh, where is it? I want to go. It's in Antarctica. So, yeah. So we'll have to hitch a ride with
Yeah, no traffic jams, nice hotels.
yeah, I can hang out with some scientists.
Nice and peaceful.
All right, so this is the view from the parking lot. This is the video. I had 2 cameras. I had my cell phone camera doing a live video stream, but it automatically adjusted for brightness. So this one, the iris didn't adjust. So it's automatically, it actually gets very dark very quickly in the last minutes before it. So, in recovering from the eclipse mania, on our way back, I had to stop by Krispy Kreme because they had a special donut that day that was a chocolate glazed donut. So yeah, I indulged. And my wife and I drove to Colorado to celebrate my 50th birthday, which is on August 25th. And we're not young. And when we were younger, in our 30s, and we used to take road trips together, it was easy. But when you're in a car for 12 hours, well, we had to stop often. We were in the car for 50 hours together. So we learned total, going from Gainesville and back. So we got to spend a lot of quality time together. So I highly encourage, if you and your significant other want to spend quality time together, just plan a road trip halfway across the country. So I got to cross off a whole bunch of things on my bucket list. I saw a total solar eclipse before I was 50. I I celebrated my birthday at the top of Pikes Peak. We went up to the summit of Pikes Peak on my birthday and had a champagne toast. And then I visited the hospital where I was born, and I kissed Kendra on the steps of the Colorado State Capitol midnight before my birthday. And they have a step that says you're 1 mile above sea level, so I always want to do that. I'm weird like that. All right, so let me wrap this up. So let's do it again. Well, okay, on April 8th of 2024, there's going to be a total solar eclipse, and it's going to go from southern Texas up through Maine and Vermont. So we will get about 60% partial coverage. So this time, since it will probably be quite popular, I'm going to start getting eclipse shades many years in advance, and I'll put it in my budget. Because my goal is to get for the planetarium and our surrounding community about 10,000 eclipse shades. So I'll order a couple thousand every year, and I'll distribute them to all the libraries and so forth. That way, when people come to get them, they can get them for free, or whatever. And August 12th, 2045, it's going to go right over Gainesville. It's going to, we will have totality. I'll be 77 years old, but hey, I love my job so much, I'll probably still be working at the planetarium. Yeah, Van's still working there. If y'all know Van Dvorsky, yeah, he's getting, well, he's not at 70 yet, but he enjoys his job. So when you work for a place, you enjoy what you do. All right, so things to look up for in 2018. On January 31st, we have what's called a blue moon. Now, a blue moon occurs when you have 2 full moons in the same calendar month. But blue moons aren't really blue, but this particular blue moon is going to turn red because the moon is going to pass through the Earth's shadow that night. Now, we live on the East Coast, so unfortunately, we get to see the beginning of the eclipse, but totality happens after the moon sets. So, if you are an eclipse chaser, you really want to see a total lunar eclipse and can't wait until next year, in 2019, because we'll see one in 2019, because the eclipses happen in 6-month patterns. So there's actually an eclipse every 6 months. Usually, after you have a solar eclipse, 2 weeks before after you have a lunar eclipse. And sometimes it's partial, sometimes it's penumbral or total. But we get 2 total lunar eclipses. We have 3 in a row. We have one in January 2018, and then another one in July, and then another one in January again. But anyway, not only is it going to be an eclipse, and it's going to be blue, the moon is at perigee at the same time, so it's also a supermoon. So we have a super blue blood moon. Yeah, a super blue blood moon, or yeah, something like that. And on July 27th, the first episode of Stargazers next year, I've been known for dancing whenever there's a conjunction, because I think conjunction is really pretty, so you'll see me dancing a lot in that episode. Not only on July 27th is Mars in opposition. That means that we are at our closest to Mars that we ever are that year, so Mars will be big and bright. But the moon is in conjunction with Mars, so there's a conjunction that night, and the moon is full, and it's going to be a lunar eclipse. But you have to be in Western Africa, Western Europe, Eastern Asia to see it. So we're on the daytime side of the Earth here in Gainesville, so we don't get to see it. But if you're traveling in July and you happen to be on that side of the world, look for that. So it's going to be a red planet and a red moon, and that equals fun. Okay. All right, so that is the end of my presentation. All right, so I'll ask a question to see if anyone would like to win this one. I have 2. Okay, so when did Stargazers start? Oh goodness, everyone's hand went up at the same time and I didn't. Oh goodness. Oh. Should have thought that more. Okay. Well, I guess I'll start from the
Supply and demand.
supply and demand. Okay. Don't beat me up if you get it. Okay. What was the date that it started? Yes.
November 1975.
November 75. Very close.
November 4th, 1976.
Ah, yes. Congratulations. You're welcome. Stop by my table and I'll autograph it. Okay, so I have another one. So the next question is, when will the total solar eclipse happen over Gainesville? Yes.
It'll be 2045 in August.
Very good. By the way, if you happen to stop by the planetarium, I do have like Google and so on. So, okay, another question for one of the cloisonne pins. I don't know if I mentioned this. Yeah, I did. Where is my co-host Dean Regas? Where does he live?
Cincinnati Planetarium?
Cincinnati, yes. Okay, now I'm gonna ask these two a question. These three. And if you stop by my table after this, I'll give you an autographed picture of me. Not that it's exciting, but I have three of these. So, okay, so which planet has the most moons? You. Very good. Okay. Which planet has rings that are really easy to see? Saturn. I think they're smart. Okay, and which planet is the only planet, which planet has the most craters? Craters. Okay, I'll phrase it another way. Which planet has the shortest year? Okay, which planet's closest to the sun? It also begins with the letter M but ends with the letter Y. Mercury. There you go. So I'm going to be over at the Kika Silverclaw Planetarium table, so feel free to stop by, and if you want an autograph, it'll be worth maybe $2 in about 20 years. But thank you so much for your attention, and I really enjoy what I do. One of my friends, when she retired from UF, when I used to work at UF, she said, if you find something you truly enjoy doing and have people pay you to do it, you won't feel like you've worked a day in your life. And I truly have found what I enjoy a lot.